Chat. I'm George Balekji. He's Jahmai Webster. Back with another chat for you guys today. J-Dub, how we doing today, my man?
Man, solid. It's another beautiful day, a little crispy outside, but
Right.
Here I am indoors. Wouldn't be anywhere else in the world but with you, my man, George.
I appreciate it. Was J-Dub the nickname in high school? With JW, you got a lot of versatility with those initials.
It's interesting that you asked, man, because my older brother is also a J-Dub. My younger brother is a J-Dub. So, it basically transfers to all three of us. So, it definitely applies. But, yeah, my boys, they always call me that too. So, it still works.
Hey, I love it. I think you got good initials like that. Play into it. Why not? It's you and Jalen Williams of the OKC Thunder, basically. The two-day J-Dubs. In the world there is. Hey, we got a packed show for you guys today. As always, we'll run through what's trending around the sports world. We give out our NFL Week 9 power rankings, as we always do on the Wednesday edition of the show. We'll talk about the Celtics, if anyone can beat them. Like, seriously, if anyone can beat them, because I don't know if you can when you have Payton Pritchard doing what he's doing off the bench. And finally, we'll talk a little bit about Bill Belichick as well. But let's get into what's trending. First off, Jahmai, congrats on the lead in the World Series. Excellent showing by your Dodgers on Monday night. But we had a first. On October 28th, New York City was the first metro area to lose a game in Major League Baseball, the MLS, the NBA, and NFL all on the same day, regular season and postseason. Because the Dodgers beat the Yankees 4-2, Steelers beat the Giants on Monday night, the Cavaliers beat the New York Knicks, and FC Cincinnati beat NYCFC 1-0. Look at that range on the sports. Awful time right now in New York City, my man. Let me tell you.
You know, that's the match that I was looking at on the pitch. You know, to completely complete the. It's not a trifecta. It's like what do you call a five, whatever it is. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, how about that? Shout out to FC Cincinnati doing the gig. But that's crazy, man. Tough time for a New York sports fan. You just had the 20th anniversary of the 04 Red Sox run where they came back from down 3-0.
Yep,
so
rub it in.
It's been a tough week to be a New York sports fans for sure. But that was interesting to see, kind of crazy, but also interesting because everybody took an L that day, but none bigger than Fat Joe on the mound at Yankee Stadium, which was crazy, man. That was wild.
No, let's talk about that. What were you thinking watching that unfold? What were you thinking? I'm on my couch. I'm like doing some notes in my laptop, just doing some things, and I look up and I see Fat Joe lip syncing on the pitcher's mound. Let's play baseball. What are we doing? Yeah. And it was an awful, awful force of a concert. I hated it, dude.
And that's the thing, dude. I rock with Fat Joe, but man,
me too.
My first thought was like I was getting ready to tweet Ice Cube better. Plain and simple, just like that. He was way more solid. Like Fat Joe looked like he was a little bit lit out there, and also he was trying to ad lib, and I'm like, dude, those words don't work. He also dropped the F-bomb to start, which was hilarious. And I was like, dude, what are we doing? This is game 3 of the World Series. The Yankees are down 2-0, man. They need the ultimate hype, man. I felt like Jeter kind of put things back to where they needed to be for New York Yankees fans, but then they pitched to Freddie Freeman, and it was all history from there. So
he's unreal.
That was tough, though. That was tough. Yeah.
I'm just watching it. Like, let's just play baseball. It's a game 3 of the World Series. World Series games, you have the diehard baseball fans tuning in, especially see LA, New York. No one cares to sit through a Fat Joe. Bro, even the stadium wasn't rocking with him, Jahmai. Like, they were showing shots. Everyone is sitting down. And if I'm the Yankees, like, as high as my anxiety would be going into game 3, I'm watching this, and this is just a distraction to the point of, like, let me just take the field. Let that first pitch be thrown. Let that first hit be had. Let me make that first play in the field or get that first pitch my way. Like, I just want to play the game. It's just, it's making you overthink it even more. It was a miss, man. MLB tries to be modern, tries to be hip, but Rob Manfred can't get it right with a multitude of things. Like, let's have a World Series game every other night. Why are we doing 3 days and 3 nights? Like, stretch it out. You get a better series overall. But also doing these things. Like the Ice Cube was fine, and then I see the Fat Joe. I'm like, enough. It's just a.
Well, they had to answer back. It's New York versus LA. They had to try to answer back somehow.
Yeah,
but,
I guess
it was a tough look, and it was funny. They're good. They're probably happy that Garrett Cole wasn't pitching because he wouldn't have gone for that. He would have been like your man and what's my guy's name? It's slipping me right now. This is crazy. He went berserk in Washington during the World Series, actually, and like was pitching over people during the national anthem or something crazy.
Max
Scherzer.
Yes.
Max Scherzer. So he would have been like Max Scherzer went nuts if that was Garrett Cole pitching, but Clark Schmidt, he wasn't really tripping about it. But
yeah, he wouldn't do that.
It was interesting to see for sure. Entertaining, no doubt.
It took the juice out of the stadium, in my opinion. And then the Yankees are, down 4-0. Alex Verdugo with a nothing 2-run shot. I mean, which was big. Like, hey, put something in the stands. But as you said, it was like the Fat Joe. Freddie Freeman happens right away. New York sports are down bad. Like the Giants, they lost Andrew Thomas, their best offensive lineman, and Daniel Jones stinks. That game was closed out on a strip sack by TJ Watt, and Danny Dimes throwing an interception. The Knicks are going through right now just trying to figure out their new lineup with Karl Anthony Towns there. Yeah. I can't give you anything on NYCFC, but a 1-0 loss is tough. It's just down. New York's down bad right now, Jahmai. Let me tell you, they are down bad right now.
Yeah, what happened to our guy? It seems like he hasn't been able to find his rhythm ever since after his rookie year when he took over for Eli Manning. Daniel Jones has not been the quarterback that they projected him to be, and he is really struggling to find it right now. It feels like he's not one of the top 32 guys in the league.
I agree.
It's crazy.
I agree. He cannot hit the broadside of a barn. He's not accurate, bad decision making. A lot of hits will do that to you. All right, let's move on to a legend of the game. Dwyane Wade, you saw his new statue that was unveiled in Miami outside of whatever they call their stadium now.
Yeah, they got so many different names for it. I'm not in it's like Casillas Arena or something like that, but who knows with these naming rights? Everybody loves a sponsor, but it was wild.
His statue is rough looking. It looks nothing like him. They did like 60-year-old Dwyane Wade on like peak Dwyane Wade's body. They did the right moment of that buzzer beater he had against the Bulls where he went, "This is my house" on the scorer's table.
House, yeah.
Right? And then the memes just started going around. I saw the one comparison comparing him to the guy from Rocky going, "Throw the damn towel," before Apollo Creed gets KO'd and dies.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
It looks like him, and it made sense. Then we saw another one, another comparison of D Wade. I think it was, putting him in the Matrix?
He was Morpheus, man.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. It's like Mr. Anderson, Morpheus. Look, I mean, that I actually like because Keanu Reeves is in the forefront of that. Like, if you just look at that, which is kind of what your eyes focus to, you don't even realize until you start to analyze this photo that it's actually that statue, which is even more funny. But this is great. You kind of love when social media comes together, especially on X, because it's a cesspool at times. But it's great when people can have fun with stuff like this. But Dwyane Wade came out, man, and he even posted pictures on his Instagram later on, and he was a part of the process. Like, he could have kind of put the kibosh on this early on when they were beginning to just formulate the face, but he's feeling it. So I'm not even mad because he's like leaning into it and like, yo, this is dope. And I think he had a phrase that said, "I don't see too many people with statues out there," which is the ultimate flex.
Yeah, right? And he goes, "It doesn't need to look like me. It's the artistic version of a moment that happened, and that's what we're trying to cement." Like, credit to him. He's like, not a lot of people have a statue. If I want to look like me, I'll stand outside the arena. Y'all take your photos. Like, he's so grateful to have a statue outside of an arena forever of him in a city that he's basically the mayor of Miami, you can say. And you know what? Credit to him. I mean, just what other word to use about Dwyane Wade, which we've always said throughout his career, but like a gentleman. And as much as this artist or sculptor, whoever, is getting dragged, he's going out and defending them. And he's basically saying, like, look, y'all can get your jokes off. I don't care. And that's the most important opinion of the statue. Credit to D Wade, man. He's one of one. He really is.
He is. And I mean, statue in and of itself is a dope thing, aside from, it not being an identical match to Dwyane Wade. But for him to have the statue outside of that arena, a place that he built, the 3 championships, the All-Stars, the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's pretty cool because, I mean, you think about some of the historic players in that organization, Alonzo Mourning, Tim Hardaway, like he is the greatest player to don a Heat jersey in that franchise's history. So it's fitting that he got that moment. And I thought it was pretty cool because usually a statue is, you shooting a jump shot, going for a dunk, but encapsulating that, which was, huge. That game, you go back and look at it and him taking over and the fact that that was the one that they chose. I think that's unique and that's different. So I like it.
And what perfect then have a statue of someone screaming, "This is my house." It's always going to be his house. That arena, exactly. He made it. He built it up to be. Exactly, right? I love that. If there was a Jahmai Webster statue to go up, where would it go? Outside of your high school in L.A.?
Nah, probably not. I mean, because I was a late bloomer, man. You know, I came along probably in college where I finally found my footing and I was like comfortable in my own skin. Even though I played sports and stuff, but
Yeah.
I just felt like, you know, I was cool, but I wasn't that cool. Like I wasn't the most popular kid in school. But um, that's a good question though. I mean, where would it go? Where would it go? It'd probably go at my college actually,
All
right
right, I
outside
like it.
the college, the Mike Curb College of Arts, Media, and Communication at California State University at
Boom.
Northridge with the
Boom.
golden mic in my hand.
There we go. I like that golden touch on it. Cement Jahmai there and put the golden mic in his hand. All right, also the Simpsons are coming out. Fun football. It's coming to Monday Night Football. It'll be December 9th. It'll be Bart and the Bengals versus Homer and the Cowboys. Basically, it'll be like what we see Nickelodeon mash up and match a game on the screen. Simpsons are doing it. I think this is cool. It's a different audience, like the Nickelodeon audience for you being a dad, of course. I'm sure you like watching that, having your kids have fun watching football if you watch it with them. This one's different. This is like an older generation, but I guess it'll get a different audience into it because we know Simpsons fans, that's like a culture in its own of people that love the Simpsons. I never watched it, but I think this is cool.
Yeah.
Like, why not? Why not?
Dope. That's all I can think of right now, Homer Simpson. But yeah, no, I actually watched The Simpsons, but my parents didn't want me to watch The Simpsons. Like I had to sneak Simpsons episodes because they thought it was a little too provocative at the time and too advanced for me. But I used to love The Simpsons and watching. I mean, it's the longest running primetime show I think on television or something like that. So it fits. And you mentioned those Nickelodeon contests that the league was trying to get involved with to get that younger audience, and every league is trying to attract new viewers, trying to attract a new audience, people who are going to continue to carry on with the sport as they grow older. So I think this is kind of cool. But yeah, it's more so for people like in their late 20s and 30s, I feel like. Not so much the little kids, unless those kids are like me and sneaking episodes of The Simpsons when their parents, don't want them to watch it. But I think it's going to be a cool thing to see. I'll be watching it, and I'll be checking out this alternate cast and seeing how the graphics come together and some of the plays, because I thought those Nickelodeon games were pretty cool with the slime and, introducing those elements to football, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Nickelodeon, I'm just blown away by the tech. Like, they can literally have a match of games. You see the elements. Yeah. And, I mean, I'll switch over and, watch the actual game. But, and it's Bengals-Cowboys. Actually, I probably will watch this over the actual game because Bengals-Cowboys, as those teams have been trending, it's going to be an ugly matchup when they're meeting in early December. Both teams down bad. So why not? I guess put the cartoon spin on it. It's the best thing you could do for either team,
Yeah, it's bringing that interest for sure because December 9th is this game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And that is, a little more than a month of May, so a little more than a month away. So who knows where these teams will be at that particular time. To your point, they could both be at the bottom of the barrel. Although I feel like Cincinnati is trending upward. I still feel like they're going to be an opportunity to, make a playoff push. We'll see what happens with them. But I'm not sure about the Cowboys. They could have fired their head coach at that point. You know what I mean? They could be moving on. So who knows what's going to happen?
Both are 3-win teams. And come December, maybe they'll be 4 or 5. It's going to be a long season. I'm excited to check out what they're doing. It's cool to see stuff like this. Hey, make sure to call in to Boston has entered the chat. Leave us a voicemail, 617-790-0928. Call in, leave a voicemail. We'll play it on the show as we've done in the past. Email us, thechat@nesson.com. It could be anonymous. You could leave your name and where you're emailing from. Either or. If it's a great sports take or a life take at all, you got some questions for us, email in thechat@nesson.com. We'll read it. Or tweet at us, #thechat. Tweet at Nesson, tweet at myself, George Balekji, tweet at Jahmai Webster. We'll bring it on the show as well. All right, Jahmai, let's get to our power rankings. Talking about Bengals and Cowboys, those are teams that'll be bottom of the barrel. As we always do on the Wednesday edition of the shows, we bring out our NFL power rankings for the week ahead. So this is week 9. I'll give you my 10th spot first. And speaking of the Bengals, it's a team that just absolutely trucked them on the field, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. It was not pretty to start the season. Their offense looked out of sorts. But to be 5-2 now, to drop 37 on the Bengals and completely take that offense out of the game as well, we've seen a week-by-week adjustment by Vic Fangio to figure out this defense that was banged up in the secondary, lacking getting pressure up front with their front seven. But things are coming along, and Jalen Hurts with that deep ball to Devontae Smith, him getting it done on the ground. Saquon Barkley just being so consistent, even with that offensive line having guys in and out of their lineup. I like where this Eagles team is at. I actually feel a lot better than them. I feel like as I say, they're 10. I should have them higher. But the top 10 this week was tough to piece together. I just love what Philly's doing. Who do you have in your 10 spot?
Yeah, you should have them higher, George, because I do. And we'll get to that eventually. Just only a couple of spots up. But my 10th spot is, as a 49ers fan, it's my San Francisco 49ers. I put them there. Big win this week against the Dallas Cowboys. And, right there in the division, and a virtual lock for first place. You got 3 teams tied for first at 4-4 with the Cardinals and the Seahawks, the Rams, a half game back. So they're still right where we want to be. Certainly not where we expect it to be, but we're right where we want to be.
Yep.
Brock Purdy doing the job. He really turned it on. So it's great to see him kind of take over a game because we had yet to see that he got that. I guess some people would even call it a knock as being a game manager.
He's
kind of
great,
pegged
man.
against him. But, yeah, he gets the job done, and he finally was able to do some things offensively. So I like the 49ers in the 10th spot, trending upwards because, they're everybody's preseason pick to be in the Super Bowl and be NFC champ. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, they need that bye week, too, that they're heading into. Like, I don't know if they get Christian McCaffrey back or not, but, like, Juwan Jennings was banged up. Jordan Mason banged up. Debo Samuel, Ricky Pearsall got back. Let him get rest. Let him get back in.
Yeah.
We'll see what they do. And maybe they make moves at the deadline, too, as that NFL trade deadline's approaching. I like that Niners.
Yeah.
In the 10th
Hopefully
spot.
we see. Yes, sounds like you like my Niners at the 10th spot more than you like your Eagles.
Honestly, yeah. And let me blast myself. I don't even have the Niners in my top 10. I'm holding.
Oh my God!
I had them. Hey, I was a preseason guy all over San Fran. I'm a Brock Purdy apologist. I'm a Brock Purdy stan. But his team's hurt, man. They're finding ways to win. Let's see what they can do. Hey, my 9th spot, I have the Houston Texans. 6-2, but the news did just break not too long ago. Stephon Diggs done for the year. Non-contact torn ACL, that hurts, man. That hurts a ton. And this offense has been up and down. Nico Collins should be back by week 9 or week 10 off the IR as he's dealing with the hamstring. And he's looked like the best receiver in football before he went on the IR. But losing Stephon Diggs, that hurts a lot. And this is a Texans team where CJ Stroud's looked good, but it just hasn't been consistent with them. It's been choppy. And a guy like Diggs is a move you do to go all in. I wouldn't be surprised if Nick Caserio, their GM, makes another trade to try and get a receiver to fill that void, or they get John Mechie off their depth chart and move him up. But I have the Texans at the 9th spot, even though they're 6-2, because that Stephon Diggs loss is a huge blow for them.
Yeah, we are, that's certainly true. And I guess I'll talk about the Texans when I get to my pick because they are in my top 10 as well. But I did make this in full disclosure before I saw the Stephon Diggs news. So maybe I would put them in the 9th spot. I'm not going to make a correction on the fly. I'm going to stick with my original. But my 9th spot is the Minnesota Vikings. I feel like they're a team who they've lost 2 straight. So they were 5-0, lost 2 straight. So they're trending downwards. So I had them a little bit up before in my NFL power ranking. But now they're in 3rd place in that division. Again, losing their last 2 straight. But Sam Darnold he's had an emergence, a career resurgence with Minnesota, and he's been able to, put things together and take over for what Kirk Cousins had laid the foundation as far as being a winning team, and he's not really missed a beat, and he's been really good as well. So they got Justin Jefferson, they got some pieces on the offense that can make them probably contend in that division, but right now it's tough because one of the teams or 2 of the teams that they're chasing are also in my top 10. And I'll talk about them in a little bit later, but I got the Minnesota Vikings at number 9.
I have them at the 8th spot, so we're right there. They lost 2 in a row. The second one was on a short week to the Rams, but that was also after a shootout with the Lions. Like, that's a tough game to get over. And then you got to prepare for a Sean McVay coach team. I like the Vikings a lot. The defense is great. The offense is great. I love Kevin O'Connell. So I got him at the 8th spot, and you hit every other nail on the head. So I'll keep it short on my Minnesota at number 8. Who do you have at the 8th spot, Jahmai?
All right, my 8th spot is the team that you had in your 10th spot, the Philadelphia Eagles, man. So I had them 2 spots above because I like what this team has done, and I think I'm more attracted to the names on the back of the jersey than anything else. I just think about a Saquon Barkley. I think about a Jalen Hurts. I think about Devontae Smith. I also think about the other wide receiver on the outside there. A.J. Brown, and I'm like, this team is so stacked offensively. I don't feel like they would ever be out of a game. So I love what they're doing right now. They're playing well, and they They won their last 3, but they also, they have a tough. It's going to be 1-2 race between them and the Washington Commanders. But
Yeah.
I feel like because they are battle tested, they have been there before. They know what it takes to get there. They're in a good spot at 5-2 right now, so they are my 8th seed in my NFL power ranking.
The Eagles-Commanders matchup that we'll get down the line, I'm excited for because of how good this Eagles defense has become. And Jaden Daniels has been magical. I'll get to him. My 7th spot went Packers, 6-2. I've been high on the Packers. I think I have high expectations. That's why I feel like I have them a little low at 7. But also with Jordan Love dealing with an injured groin, we'll see how much I can hamper him. I mean, the guy had a sprained knee. Now it's his groin. His athleticism and his mobility, especially in that offense, is what helps him a lot. That's a knock there. The defense is getting better. The run defense especially has been getting better. But I like this Packers at the 7 spot. I think it's how highly I feel of the top 6 is why I have the Packers this low at my 7 spot. Who do you got at 7?
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what your top 6 breaks out because I got the Packers a little bit higher, which we'll get to as well. They are in my top 10. But my 7th seed is the Houston Texans. As we mentioned, they'd probably be a little bit lower had I known about, them losing their 30-year-old pass catcher and Stephon Diggs. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler. I think he ranks 7th in the NFL in catches. He leads the team in receiving yards. So this is going to be a major blow. We're going to see who fills in for his absence because he's now lost for the rest of the year. And the Houston Texans, they are one of those teams, in my mind at least, that came in with high expectations given what the quarterback was able to do this in his rookie year. So they're 6-2. They're at the top of their division right now, 4-0 at home, unbeaten. So I feel like they're also a team that should be contended with. But I got them on the back end of my top 10 because I feel like they still yet to kind of take themselves into, some of the top 5 teams that I have. I don't feel like they're better than them. So I got the Houston Texans there and being led by CJ Stroud. I feel like they are good 7 and much better than the teams behind them right now.
Yeah, I like that spot for them too. Again, maybe I should have them higher up. We'd see, but to the point of losing Stephon Diggs, that's a team I have confidence in. No matter how low they are now, playoffs roll around, they could turn the gear. My 6th spot, Baltimore Ravens, even coming off that loss against the Browns, which I'm so happy about because it's the biggest middle finger to the Haslams, the ownership of Cleveland. The Ravens just added Deontay Johnson. Like, Zay Flowers was good. Derrick Henry's been a beast. Lamar Jackson's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And he had a really good outside receiver like Deontay Johnson, who's more explosive and can be more explosive than a Flowers. They needed that second option consistently because Mark Andrews hasn't been there. Isaiah Likely has fallen off a little bit. They needed another receiver on the outside. They needed someone to help out Lamar in the passing game. Especially, you just need options when it comes to the playoffs. It's Lamar, it's Derrick Henry. You can rely on them, but you need someone to help and alleviate pressure off this offense where we saw key drops by Rashad Bateman in that loss to the Browns. Immediately address it. It's why the Ravens are one of the best franchises, one of the most well-run franchises in the NFL because they do moves like this. And, man, what a spot for Deontay Johnson to end up in. Signs that prove-it deal, goes to Carolina in a good offense with Dave Canales, but Carolina's going to be the worst or second worst team in the NFL. Gets traded to one of the best teams in the AFC and a true Super Bowl contender. Good for him, and obviously a guy familiar with the AFC North, being a former Steeler. To me, it's the addition of Deontay Johnson that puts the Ravens in that 6th spot for me.
Yeah, I like that pick. But once again, we're just right neck and neck, but we aren't exactly at the same spot. My 6th team is the Washington Commanders. Coming off that Hail Mary win, Jaden Daniels has been all he's cracked up to be. And arguably, we're going to see him and Caleb Williams going at it for years to come. But I thought he could have easily been the number 1 overall pick in this last year's draft. I mean, I like what I've been able to see from Caleb Williams, at least in the short times that I've watched him. I obviously watched Hard Knocks, so saw, his intellect and what people saw about him on the inside, being able to view that through that television show. But I like the Washington Commanders because they're in the tops of their division. I mean, the NFC East is a little bit soft right now, obviously, with the Giants and the Dallas Cowboys at the bottom of that division. But to be 6-2 with this club, I mean, they could be 5-3, but they were able to get the victory, and a win is a win in the NFL on any given Sunday, so I'll take it.
Exactly. I have the Commanders at the 5 spot, so I love where you're putting them. And, we got to talk about it, too.
Keep going.
Yeah, right? We're neck and neck. I mean, great minds think alike. And that Hail Mary play, too. Like, there are well-coached teams and there are poorly coached teams. And you just got to look at Tariq Stevenson, that defensive back for the Bears. It was like taunting Commanders fans. Bro.
That was crazy.
It's a Hail Mary. Like, Jayden Daniels is one of the best deep ball passers in the NFL, blank, period. Not for a rookie.
Which was a surprise to me, actually. I hadn't seen his arm strength like that. And I was blown away by he threw that ball 70 yards on a rope, which was crazy.
Moving around, too, like 12, 13 seconds, running around from this pass rush and just flicks a wrist. If you're he's taunting the fans, ball is snapped, turns around, it's like, oh, then runs over, and it looks like it hit his right hand, and it deflected right back to Brown. Like, dude, that's bad. Now,
he's got to be kicking himself.
DJ Moore, one of the leaders of the Bears, was commenting like, hey, it's coachable, it's teachable. He's part of the team. Like, they said all the right things. He owned up to it, went on social media, post like, that's not me, that was dumb. But man, bro, like you got to play every down. The Commanders did that, and credit to them. I have them in the 5 spot. Look, they're 6-2, and I want to point out that their defense ranks 23rd in the NFL in yards per play allowed, 29th in yards per rush allowed, 19th in yards per completion allowed, and 21st in completion percentage allowed to opposing quarterbacks. And those are all key stats for defense of basically how much you give up per snap and how well do you let opposing teams pass on you. And they're 6-2 because Jayden Daniels and what this offense does and how explosive and dynamic he is, where he's brilliant in the pocket of knowing when to tuck and run, his feel for pressure, knowing when to scramble. He's not over-reliant on it, Jahmai, which I love about him. Like, he's a very good quarterback. He's a very good passer, and he's one of the fastest guys on the football field. Just makes him so dangerous. They're 3rd in yards, 2nd in yards per rush, 4th in yards per attempt passing, which is really good. That's a good measurement of how explosive your passing attack is. 2nd in completion percentage. They're efficient. They're explosive. They're winning football, and Jayden Daniels is doing so much for this team. The Commanders are blowing me away with these expectations. I thought they'd finish last. I thought the Giants would be just ahead of them because this roster isn't that great. The defense isn't that great. But, man, you get a quarterback rolling and you get a lot of pieces right around him, like where they invested in the offensive line and even just with Terry McLaurin, but they're running the ball with Brian Robinson. Like, they're doing so many things right. I love the Commanders right now. I have them in my 5 spot.
Yeah, one of the surprises of the season so far for sure. And I had him in my 6th spot. So, I mean, they're right there, as you mentioned. But shout out to my guy, Moises Linares, also, who he's a Spanish language football announcer for the Commanders. And he had an excellent call that's going viral. It was incredible. So I got to find that if you get a moment. Yeah, for sure. But my 5 team is within, striking distance of the one that you had them at. And that's the Baltimore Ravens. Despite the tough loss, obviously, at Cleveland, but you look at their 8 games so far. 5 of their 8 games have been played against divisional opponents, and they're 2-3, so a game below 500. And that's where the deficiencies lie. You're beating up on each other. The divisional opponents have the most intel on you and know your tendencies. So those games are much more difficult to win and usually a lot more close. So I look at the Cleveland Browns, and it's the Cleveland Browns, a poverty franchise. You see what they've done over the last several years. But also, they're in the division, so some of those times those things happen. I mean, depending on which way you look at it, you could even say the same thing about the New York Jets losing to the Patriots in their play. So I feel like Baltimore is still there, and they got so much explosive plays. You mentioned Deontay Johnson, who was traded for the 2nd time this season, which is crazy. So hopefully this will kind of help him be reinvigorated again because he was on a Panthers squad that was awful, that remains awful, and he had 30 receptions, 357 yards, and he had 3 touchdowns for a team who could not find the end zone if they were given a compass. So I like the Baltimore Ravens at my number 5 spot.
Hey, all 3 of their losses were by 1 score, too. 27-20 to the Chiefs, 26-23 to the Raiders, which was a huge letdown on their part. Then 29-24 to the Browns on a touchdown allowed with just under a minute left. Like, that is a crazy swing of the pendulum for them. They easily could be a 1 or 2 loss team. That's it. They easily could be undefeated right now, especially catching those Chiefs week 1. It's a really good spot to be in, and then they made a huge upgrade on the offense. An offense that's been rolling, like one of the best offenses that got better. My 4th spot, I went with the Buffalo Bills. And, like, dude, you win in Seattle, stop. Full stop. You have my attention. On top of that, like, running all over a Seattle defense that is banged up, but Mike McDonald, their new head coach, prides it on defense. And this is a great defense to begin the season. They've dealt with their injuries. And then on the opposite end, how good their run defense has been. They held Kenneth Walker to when he's healthy. He's one of the best athletes in the NFL. He's one of the best running backs in the NFL. Career low, 1.3 yards per rush. They did that to Kenneth Walker. You take out the motor of that offense, and again, you go out west to the 12th man, one of the hardest places to play, and you upset the Seahawks like that. You have my attention. I think I had the Bills outside of my top 10 last week. They're now in my 4 spot. That's how big of a win that was, and they're 6-2, finding ways to win, and the defense is slowly getting better and better.
All right, that's a great pick. I certainly like it, but I got some West Coast bias and me always talking about the NFC West being one of the toughest divisions in football. But if I'm being real, it's got to be the NFC North, which is the toughest, which is why 2 of those teams are in my top 4. And the first one is the Green Bay Packers at number 4. And I got them there because they got a team that's better than them, ahead of them, but they also have those high expectations. And at 6-2, they are right there. And Jordan Love, he has been a godsend for that franchise. They've been really blessed as it relates to quarterbacks over the last 30 years.
Yes.
It's absolutely crazy. They've done a fantastic job with drafting people. And Jordan Love now leading the franchise. Josh Jacobs in the backfield, rushing for over 100-plus yards this past Sunday. Couple touchdowns. Certainly didn't hurt, but I feel like they got the pieces complementarily. And it seems like all my positive affirmation seems to be about what offenses are doing. And in the NFL, you need an offense that can put the ball in the end zone, and they can do that.
And they're one of the best defenses at forcing turnovers as well. Like what Jeff Hafley's done, they added Robert Saleh to the coaching staff after he was fired by the Jets to be in a fluid position, which is a genius way of, you don't have a title, the Jets are paying you, but come help us win a Super Bowl. You had that experience. You had that IQ in Saleh. I really like this Packers team too. 3 spots for me.
Shout out to Jeff Hafley. That's my
man.
guy.
Boston College coach. He's a great
here,
Shout out to Jeff Hafley. He's from New Jersey. Yes, finally worked in a good Jersey reference. That is my dude. He's a great guy. 3 spot for me, I put the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're 6-2. This defense is great, and we've seen that they had an elite defense, and they had an offense that was finding ways to win. And you had Russell Wilson. 99.9% of people were wrong on Russ, including me. That 0.1% is Mike Tomlin, Russell Wilson, and like Russell Wilson's mom. That's it. The only people thought he'd be good. But he's been phenomenal for them. They've had back-to-back games of their offense having 400-plus yards, which didn't happen at all this season before. Go back into last season, it wasn't happening often as well. And he had 3 explosive completions. Like, it was a rough start against a Giants defense that has a really good pass rush and at times can be well in their secondary. And then when he just started letting it go and letting it loose and just like Russ being Russ, where his deep ball is looking crisp, man, he looks good. He's defying expectations. And with how good TJ Watt and Nick Herbig have been on that pass rush, I really like the spot Russell Wilson's in. I love where the Steelers are at. I have them in my 3 spot.
You know what? I love the Steelers enough to keep them out of my top 10 because this is where we differ. They're not even in my top 10 at all, so I'll just give it away. Spoiler alert. I don't even have the Steelers in my top 10, so with the argument that you just made, I feel like I can put them at 10A right behind my 49ers. But my number 3 team is the Buffalo Bills because, as you mentioned, going into Seattle, winning in that place where they have the 12th man that really is able to shift games and kind of be that other voice, that other person that dominates is great. So I think Buffalo with Josh Allen, who arguably is, one of the top 2, maybe he's 1A behind Patrick Mahomes historically, but he probably is one of the top, if not the top quarterback in the NFL right now. So what he's doing after losing Stephon Diggs, losing some of his other receivers that he had in years past.
Yeah.
I think what he's got going on right now is just exceptional. So that's why the Bills are my number 3 team.
Hey, I got him at 4. You got him at 3. Can't hate on that. The top 2 is really tough because the Lions are so damn good, but they're number 2. Look, their last 3 wins, 52-14, 31-29 over the Vikings, who are the best defense in football, and they dropped 31 on them. Then 47-9 to the Cowboys, which the Cowboys stink, but like you put up 47 on someone, respect. The Lions are so damn good. They're so explosive. They're so buttoned up. They have one of the best offensive lines, or the best offensive line in the NFL, you can argue. One of the best receiving rooms, the best running back room, in my opinion. And Jared Goff is just a man-possessed and so locked in playing in that Ben Johnson offense. They lose Aiden Hutchinson, which is a huge loss because he was getting to the quarterback better than anyone in the NFL. But when you have an offense like this and teams can't keep up, you're going to do this to so many teams. Lions, I have them at my 2 spot, which gives it away. I do have the Chiefs at my 1, but I'm interested to hear your 1 and 2 right now in your power rankings.
Yeah, yeah. I figured you would go that way, and it's hard not to because the Chiefs are 7-0, the only undefeated team in the National Football League.
Yep.
They got Patrick Mahomes. They're going for a three-peat, so they got all this pressure every week, week in and week out. Everybody's throwing their absolute best at this team, haymakers. But you know what? Patrick Mahomes has been pedestrian, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen a year of a quarterback coming off not even one Super Bowl, but two Super Bowls who has been just okay. He's been average, middle of the pack, and that to me is concerning.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if they're going to go forward, he's going to have to turn into the Superman that he's been to get them to this point and the team that he's been able to carry the two Super Bowl victories at some point during the season. But given what he's done through 7 games so far, I'm not sure if it's in there. Maybe this is his off year. Who knows? I haven't seen it quite yet. I've seen him make plays when he needed to, but I haven't seen him over the course of 60 minutes kind of carry a team to victory. He's had a lot of help with that. So the Kansas City Chiefs are my number 2 team at 7-0, which may surprise a lot of people. But I don't know. Maybe I'm a hater because obviously they beat the 49ers twice. But I'm not feeling it yet. Not quite yet. I feel like there's another team that's better out there, and I'll get to that in a sec.
It's the expectations, and that's why. Like, they have unrealistic expectations. Patrick Mahomes is Steph Curry. When Steph Curry misses a 3, you go, why did he miss that? And when Mahomes looks off, you're like, why is he not playing well? Look, they got the tackle positions wrong. Like, they won a Super Bowl with Donovan Smith. He's sitting on a couch. They drafted Kingsley Suamataia out of BYU, thinking he can be a left tackle, and he's just not ready for that spot yet. They try to swing around Juwan. It's just, they've miffed on the tackles. He lost Rashee Rice. He lost Hollywood Brown. They added DeAndre Hopkins. They just got Joshua Uche to play with, of course, George Karlaftis and Chris Jones. This defense is so damn good because Steve Spagnuolo is so damn good. And I love, like, a coordinator embracing being a coordinator. Like, he could have gotten a head coaching job this offseason. He didn't want to. He's looking around, man. You know what he is, Jahmai? Like, I always say there's so many things. There's a happiness equation, right? And it's like you get that higher paying job, that higher profile job, or whatever it may be, but you're like, all right, there's more money, but there's more stress, there's more attention, but there's more opportunities. And I'd be running my program, I'm a head coach, and he's probably like sitting back, he's like, I'm going to design a defense that has studs everywhere. I got 15 on quarterback to bail me out anytime we let up a score. I don't have to do all the BS press conferences all the time. It's Andy Reid's team. I'm just in the background, but people still know I'm good. You know what? I'm happy. I'm going to stay. So this is me going on a fanboy of Steve Spagnuolo. I just like what he's built, so I just like Spags in the spot. But Chiefs are 1 because of the DeAndre Hopkins addition, because Mahomes is still doing good with no tackles, and that defense is so elite. So your 1 spot, if I had to guess, would be Detroit. Am I wrong?
Look at you, man. We might as well call you a psychic, brother, because you got it.
Well,
that's the Detroit Lions. Yeah, that's true. The Detroit Lions are the number 1 team. But it's because of what they were able to do last year. Mm-hmm. And maybe my litmus test is how tough you play the 49ers, because a lot of the teams that have been able to, come up in my top 10 power rankings are because of kind of how they've measured up against the reigning NFC champions. So I think the Detroit Lions are my top team because you talked about expectations. They certainly have them now 6-1 in their division, tops in the NFC North. Jared Goff is a man who he was one of those classic change of scenery guys. The Rams kind of fell out a little bit about him and what they thought he can provide them to. So he's a man with a chip on his shoulder. Amon-Ra St. Brown, arguably the top receiver at his position. Plus, they lost Aiden Hutchinson, granted. That's a major blow. But the NFL trade deadline is ironically on the same day as Election Day across the United States. I don't think that's a coincidence. So they can make their pick. They can grab some defensive help, and they can get, back where they need to be. So I feel like being 6-1 and having the team that they do and still having an opportunity to improve that team. Yeah. And we saw a press conference the other day from Dan Campbell where he was asked about, have you had conversations with the front office about some of the trades that they're making? And he was almost like a giddy schoolgirl about maybe, they've done some things, and he was jumping up and down. So I feel good about where Detroit is going, considering this team has, they lost the first game of the year. Yeah. And they've won 5 straight now. So it's crazy.
Yeah. It's like leading up to Christmas when accidentally you find the presents your parents got you, and there's that brand new bike, right? Like, yeah, have you talked to front office? Yep, I have.
Exactly.
November 9th. I'll wait. Oh, you're happy to wait on those days. Look, the Lions are tremendous, man. It's hard for me to find any fault in them because of how good they are. And it is, again, what I say, like expectations we have of Mahomes, it's because of 15. And if there was a 1 in the loss column for the Chiefs, I'd have my Lions at 1. Love that power ranking, Jahmai. That was good stuff. Talk about undefeated teams. The Celtics are 4-0. Their offense looks better than last season. Their defense looks better than last season. Tatum has a better shot. They're coming off a 119-108 beatdown over the Milwaukee Bucks, which was Milwaukee leading in the second half, and the Celtics ran away with it in the second. Tatum only had 15 points, but Jaylen Brown with 30 points. And 0 for 4 from 3, but then Payton Pritchard off the bench, 28, 8 of 12 shooting. Dude, the depth of this team. Do you see, and I ask this, who can beat the Celtics? We have to talk about it like this, Jahmai. Who beats the Celtics in a 7-game series? It took us 4 games to talk about the playoffs with the Celtics. Who do you see that can beat the Celtics? Because it's impossible, man. After how good they were last year, they look better this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to find somebody to match the Celtics. Obviously, they are coming off the championship, so I look at them as the front runners to be in a position to repeat. But it's very hard. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to go back-to-back, let alone three-peat in the NFL, as we were just talking about. But, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to nitpick a championship. But if I am, it certainly wasn't a murderous row, their road to banner 18. And they took on a 5th seed in the NBA Finals, which is Dallas Mavericks. Granted, all those teams got there. There wasn't exactly a healthy Eastern Conference. They had a lot of teams that were fighting off pieces. I mean, the Indiana series, for one, that was one that comes to mind where they had a lot of healthy pieces that were now sitting out that changed the course of that series potentially. But, the Celtics did get the championship. They did get it done. Yeah. And you talked about it. Jayson Tatum, just 15 points in that game. He shot 6 for 16. And they still got a victory, and they did it handily against a Milwaukee Bucks team that is probably going to challenge them for the East in some ways, because Damian Lillard looked like a man who was back to the Damian Lillard of Portland that we used to seeing. He was involved, he was engaged, and he was attacking. So that's something that could be scary as they go on and they get Chris Middleton back. But they're also doing this without Kristaps Porzingis, which, he was the original unicorn, which is crazy because you wonder what his addition is going to do and how much that's going to elevate this team even more, which is scary to me. But I feel like I'm always I don't want to the World Series, Dodgers up 3-0, but I'm not ready to, say, yeah, we got this in the bag. I just want to be a little bit cautious because it's a long season and it's only 4 games in. We got 78 to go, so we'll see what happens. But I mean, right now, the Celtics are looking like world beaters, man.
Right? It's just they're humming. And what you said at the end, they don't even have Kristaps Porzingis yet, who could defend 1 through 5 and on the perimeter. How good they're shooting. Jayson Tatum finding that hitch in his shot that he had to fix, and he's just coming out looking even better of a scorer he was than before, which is scary. What's nuts, Jahmai, is you go on FanDuel, and there are odds 20-1 for the Celtics to win 70 or more games. It's only happened twice in the history of the NBA. And the odds are only 20-1 for them to win 70 or more games. Like, that says a lot.
I'm going to take that bet.
Right? Well, why wouldn't you? And, even I look at their schedule, maybe they lose to the Warriors. But the Warriors aren't the Warriors. They're not that same team.
They aren't.
They could easily get off to an 11-0, 12-0, 14-0 start, and I wouldn't be shocked. And it's just they're going to put these streaks together, get that random L where someone catches up, where they catch a team where that team is scorching hot and maybe they're off. But the perimeter defense, it's top 4 in the NBA on threes made per game by the opposition. That says how good they are doing on the outside. And they're coming out making almost 22 a night. They're plus 36 the second they step in the gym, basically, on the point differential because of how well they're shooting the 3-ball and the depth and the defense. And you know what gets me, Jahmai, which boggles my mind, but it makes sense? They got that ring. How often, and you've been in Boston longer than me, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum have heard of they're not mature enough, that Brad Stevens has heard he has to blow it up, the Gordon Haywards, the Kyrie Irvings that didn't work out. All the times you're like, this team is not there. We don't trust them. And they broke through. There's no pressure. And they brought the whole core back. There's no pressure. And that's what makes it nuts. I'm with you. That 20-1, I'm taking that because we'd be dumb not to. We really would. And that's insane to say about any team. That's what's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they've had better teams, at least on paper, it seems like, but this team has been able to get it done
Yeah.
in ways that those teams obviously fell short of. And, making it to the Eastern Conference Finals, they did make it there. They made it to the NBA Finals where they lost to the Warriors.
Yeah.
And that was kind of one of their first tastes that got them defeated and made them hungry to kind of get it together, and also gave those young players like Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, the experience to know what it takes to get over the top. But we haven't seen this Pacers team play to their capabilities to this point. But again, we're just a handful of games in. But
yeah.
I feel like this could be a trap game, maybe going to Indiana. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton is, he was one of those players who was injured last postseason, and he was out of the series, and he was a game changer. I mean, this guy's making $42 million. So you expect him to, come up and be big, especially against this team. But we'll see what happens. But you're talking about the schedule, so it got me looking ahead a little bit, and I feel like maybe that could be one where they fall short.
Right, that's the one that jumps out to me as well. And especially as they start that road trip, but this team's just locked in. And what Joe Mazzulla does great, where I was hypercritical of him in game, timeouts, everything, But he has them showing up. He had them show up for 82 games, and then he had them show up all throughout the playoffs and finals. And he had them show up night one against New York, literally picked up where they left off, where you're expecting there to be rust. And, teams, especially one of their caliber, man, we don't need the first month of the season. We don't need the first 2 months. We know what matters. Let's just get to the playoffs. No. The fact that Joe Mazzulla has them showing up in the most meaningless games of the regular season, because when you play 82, the first 5 are going to be pretty meaningless, just no matter the opponent. Yeah. But to win the way they are, especially against the Knicks and the Bucks, 2 teams outside of the 76ers that should be their biggest threats in the East, it's just what they do defensively, how they're taking guys out of their comfort zone, like what they did to Brook Lopez, and how they know that they can live with Giannis taking certain shots, because they could just get it on the other end. It is mind-boggling to me what they do, and it's because the head coach is locked in, the front office is locked in, and they're not done adding either, Jahmai. The Celtics team we see now, they're going to get Kristaps Porzingis at a certain point, and then they're going to do something at the trade deadline, because they know with this second apron coming, with the new CBA, the tax is real. The luxury tax is real. Mm-hmm. This is the last time of this core to get this ring. They're going to go all in before the fines get real and the taxes get real. And they simply can't pay to keep this team together. But until then, instead of getting ahead of it because they got a ring, they're saying, let's get one more and then we'll figure it out from there, which I respect from Stevens on down all the way to what this team is and the entire coaching staff for Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah, I mean, I look at what some of these guys are making, and I'm like, how are they putting together a roster where dudes are making $30, $40, $50 million and having this talented core? Obviously, they're locked into long-term contracts, which helps it. It's not like they got to try to spend new money every year, but I could see the Celtics adding a piece later because, I felt like they have their core. Obviously, the starting 5 is what it is, and you're going to add Kristaps. He could be kind of that piece later whenever he's back in there. But this is a good roster, and they're obviously the team that everybody's chasing right now.
They, I did look it up. I tried to put on my best accountant hat, Jahmai. With that second apron coming down, basically teams are taxed $1.50 to $4.50 every dollar. There are over $190 million payroll. Celtics are at $203 million. They're $13 million over. They're paying $19.5 million just to put a team on the floor. That's how they're doing it.
Goodness.
They're paying, and then if there's a repeater tax, that's an additional $58 million on top of that $19 million. Just think about that. They're paying $78 million at a certain point just to put a team on the floor. I don't know how much longer they can do it, man. But if they do it for one more season and they repeat, I'm gonna love it. It's gonna be sick to see.
Yeah, it is. And got Drew Holiday making $30 million. He's obviously a big piece to what they're doing.
One of the all-time greats.
Yeah, I actually covered him in high school, which is crazy, man, to see where he's at now. That's nuts.
He's an LA guy?
He is. Went to Campbell Hall, this school in Los Angeles, and he won Gatorade Player of the Year. And I was interning at the CBS in Los Angeles. They sent me there at lunchtime, and they had this whole big thing, and I interviewed him, which is crazy to think about now. He's obviously a father, married, got all these kids, and has made this fantastic career. Now to see it is pretty incredible, and got a great family too. Brothers are awesome as well. Yeah,
I heard and I covered him when he was in Milwaukee when he got his first ring, and everything you hear about Drew Holiday, everything's true. Just like I said with Dwyane Wade, like class act gentleman, that's Drew Holiday. And then he's one of the best defensive guards I've ever seen play in the NBA. 2-time champion, huge leader. Credit to him, man. He deserves everything he gets. That's what's cool.
100%.
You see that, and look how far he's come from the LA days. Look how far Jahmai Webster's come from the LA days.
Yeah, how about that, huh?
We're all in Boston now, man. What is it, like the 6 points of connection, whatever they call it? Me and him in Milwaukee, you and him in LA, all three of us in Boston, man.
Yeah, it's wild, man, because I'm getting that stage now where a lot of the athletes that I covered are now. I mean, I'm trying to think of it. Has any big one retired, but not really. Who's like put together a Hall of Fame level career, like a very prominent career. I don't think anyone's retired yet, but I'm starting to age out, man, and be that old guy.
Hey, I feel it too. I'm 30 and I'm starting to like see kids drafted, and people talk about jerseys. I'm like, I can't get jerseys. I can't buy another person's jersey, man.
I only wear legends, man. You got to be in the Hall of Fame, and you got to be like I wear Bobby Orr, I wear Jordan, I wear Kobe. I'm not wearing, I'm not putting on a Jayson Tatum jersey. No disrespect, but I'm just saying, I'm not doing it.
Understandable. Only legends. Only legends. That's what we got in Boston has entered the chat. Speaking of legends, he's Jahmai Webster. I'm George Balekji. This is Boston has entered the chat. Wherever you get your podcast, please like, subscribe, download, rate, review. Go to Nesson's YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. And remember, 617-790-0928 to leave a voicemail. Email us to thechat@nesson.com. Tweet at us with the hashtag #thechat and @Nesson. We'll bring you guys into the chat. He's J-Dub. I'm GB. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.